What's with all these horror people drinking bourbon?
I think it's a manly drink.
Well, it's got me hooked.
Yeah. Well, Zach, you're a manly man.
I'm a man now. I watched Kurt. I learned from Kurt Russell, Jack Nicholson, Leatherface, Michael Myers.
I don't think we need a warm up. I think that's it. I think that's the opening. I'm a man now.
I'm a man now. Thanks, Papa Mikey.
You know, they say a mind is a terrible thing to waste. But what would happen if one man filled another's with the scariest films of all time?
Who are you talking to?
Nothing. Ready to watch some movies?
Aw, yeah.
Yeah. Hello, and welcome to Matt Makes Zach Watch Horror Movies. I'm Matt.
Zach isn't here, Mr. Mears. It's Tony.
And that's Tony. I made him watch a horror movie.
It was more than a movie, man. It's your life now.
Oh, no. Well, yeah, so what did we watch today, Zach?
We watched The Shining.
We did. Stanley Kubrick classic, man.
Yeah, because, yesterday was Christmas. It's snowy season.
Yeah.
All the sweaters.
I'd argue this is a perfect movie for Christmas, about coming together with your family.
Wearing sweaters.
Yeah, that kid's sweater game is on point, man. I'm so jealous.
You step your sweater game up, man.
I know. They sell that as a t-shirt, the NASA one. I want it so bad.
It's amazing.
What was your familiarity with not just The Shining, but Stanley Kubrick, considered one of like the all-time great auteurs?
Well, last week after we recorded, you ran through a bunch of Stanley Kubrick movies, and I haven't seen any of them.
That's true.
So, I know his name, but I never really knew any of his movies or anything.
Have you heard the stories about him as a director and stuff, or not even that much?
I mean, just that you've alluded to him being a monster.
Yeah.
And Shining, I just know that here's Johnny.
I mean, that's the big iconic moment, right?
Yeah.
Do you get that reference?
No.
Or does that mean nothing to Johnny Carson? That's how they would introduce him. So when he would enter the room, they'd go, "Here's Johnny." So the joke is he's introing himself.
That makes way more sense now.
Yeah,
because I just knew it as the quote from The Shining.
Right. I think that's what most people especially our within our age range.
Yeah,
know it as. So.
Oh yeah, I didn't even know it was a ghost movie until we slotted
it out there for ghost movies.
Yeah, I didn't even know this involved ghosts whatsoever.
But I mean, did you know some of the imagery, the twin girls and stuff?
Yeah,
those pop up, especially
the blood elevator. Yeah, like I told you, I was looking forward to seeing it because of when Vine was a thing. Yeah. All the aesthetic editors use shots from it.
Yeah, I mean, still there's I cannot think of the name of the Instagram where they break down the color palette and they do The Shining all the time.
Oh yeah,
that's
I've seen stuff like that.
I love that Instagram.
That and Wes Anderson.
Yeah. They use the two of them a lot because they're so particular about framing and color.
Yeah.
That's probably one of the things Kubrick is known for, even though he directed one of the best black and white movies too. Dr. Strangelove.
Oh, I haven't seen that.
It's a weird movie, man.
That's what I've heard.
I love it, but let me set up for later how weird as a person Stanley Kubrick is. For Dr. Strangelove, when all the people are in the war room of the government, he was like, "Oh, we need to make sure that the table is the same color of green as on a poker table." Because that's the joke.
Black and white movie.
The movie is black and white. That is who Stanley Kubrick was as a person. So if you couldn't tell from this movie that he's super particular.
Going the extra mile.
Yeah. That is what he is known for, is
yeah.
He doesn't just go the extra mile. He runs 5 laps and does a marathon to get back.
I mean, this movie was absolutely gorgeous. Every single shot looks
amazing.
It was so good.
All right. Should we jump into this movie then?
Yes.
All right. So I will say, because we were just talking about how it is shot, cinematography for this was done by John Alcott. And I also believe that one of the camera operators, or maybe it's John Alcott, I can't remember now. They hired them specifically because they were the inventor of the Steadicam, and Kubrick wanted the Steadicam to be used right in his movie.
So he got the guy who made it.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah. Again, he's very particular. That's why this movie looks so good. Is like, no, everything has to be perfectly in place.
Yeah.
Everything has to be just right.
Yeah. I mean, it looks like Wes Anderson movies.
Yeah. Yeah. They're both super into the like center frame perspective and staring directly into camera.
That happened a lot.
Yeah.
And all the slow zooms and then the quick zooms. A lot of zooming.
A lot of like
in horror movies in general, there's a lot of zooming.
Edgar Wright must really like this movie.
Like especially in The Conjuring that we watched last week, all the slow zooms like past people's shoulders and stuff.
Yeah.
What was there a horror movie that was like this the first movie to start that, or
I don't know. I feel like it's just always been around because I mean we've watched. I mean there's some of that in Texas Chainsaw, and that's 74.
Was this after?
Yeah, this is 1980.
Oh, okay. I imagine this being older. I don't know why.
It feels like it should be.
Yeah.
I mean, part of that's the way the movie is structured and like the setting of it.
Before we get into the movie as well, this is the final episode of the year.
Yes, closing out 2019 with a big one.
Yeah, and Christmas just happened, and thank you all for joining us so far on this podcasting journey. It's been fun.
It's been pretty fantastic.
Yeah.
I'm really delighted to have my new horror bro, Zach.
Yeah.
So
I'm delighted to be a horror bro now.
Yeah, high five horror bros.
But yeah, it's been fun.
Yeah.
And I look forward to keep doing it.
Yeah, we're gonna do many more as you guys will keep listening to.
Yeah.
So.
And also, have any feedback, let us know.
Yeah, please leave us a comment or shoot us like a message on Twitter or Instagram. Let us know what you're thinking.
Yeah.
We enjoy that.
Yeah. Let us know how we can improve. And on that note, we're here to talk about The Shining.
Oh, real quick, I forgot to ask up top. Did you like the movie?
I loved it. It's the take, like I was talking about in Poltergeist and Conjuring. There's a very specific way ghost stuff gets done that I either like or don't like. And this was very much like,
right, not even necessarily bad or not, just like it's gotta hit a certain thing. For you.
For like the 1920s is a soft spot for me, and that whole time era, especially ghost stuff.
I should have known,
because it reminds me of Twilight Zone and everything, or not Twilight Zone but Tower of Terror, all that stuff, which I love so much. So it was like the perfect amount, and it didn't take too of a self-serious on the ghost aspect like The Conjuring did.
Right. Well, I mean, The Conjuring is about ghost hunters, and this is about normal people just being like, "What the fuck?"
Yeah, which I like more when it's not as like edgy, like
I get
ghost
that.
stuff.
Yeah.
Because it's not like the ghosts that are like getting people and like killing people.
Yeah.
And it's,
well, I mean, the ghosts are almost an afterthought in this movie.
Yeah, like if you took the ghost aspect out of it, it still would stand as a movie.
Yeah,
which I like.
I dig this movie a lot. I'm gonna say up top, because I like most people, like almost everyone I know is like, this is like top 5 horror movies for me. This might be my favorite horror movie. Blah 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 blah. Like every list you see, and I'm always like, I think The Shining is pretty good. Yeah. So if you love this movie, that's okay. To the people listening, I like this movie too. I just don't love it. But I really like it, so I'm going to be kind of weirdly critical on some stuff.
Okay. I was very confused because I was like, wait,
where's he going?
But you're saying you like it, so what's the problem?
It's just that thing, like anytime you
it's
like,
not one of the top ones for you.
For me, it's not. Like I've said before, I really like slashers, which most people are like, it's trash. This is cinema. And I'm like, I don't know. It's a movie where a ghost lets a man with a concussion try to murder his wife. Like, it's not like high art. It's just really well made. Like,
It hits the same spot for me as Candyman did. At a certain point, I like it so much that I don't care if it's good or bad. It's just, I'm going to enjoy it.
I can thoroughly lose myself in this movie. I find all the behind the scenes stuff about this movie that we'll get into later,
which
absolutely fascinating.
I have so many. That's another thing. I love the movie, but I have so many questions.
Yeah. Okay, so let's dive in plot wise and pick it apart as we go now.
Let's just dive right in.
So we open on that gorgeous mountain helicopter shot.
That was amazing.
Yeah, it's so good with that score. Yeah, I think that and Halloween really set a lot of the template for the way these movies sound. But this one, more than Halloween, the sound design in this movie is fucking incredible.
Yeah, definitely. And like I said in the Friday 13th episode, I didn't like the score in that, but this is the same sort of score, but it fits better with this movie.
Yeah.
Like I like it more not in a slasher.
Oddly enough, same year.
Yeah.
Isn't it great to be, I mean, two cinematic classics.
Friday the 13th and The Shining on the same level.
An oft discussed element of it, and I love that they also have to now lump in like this one trash movie that I love. Let's be clear.
Wait, so you like The Shining, but you love Friday the 13th?
No, I mean, I feel so like I feel like there's no good way to choose my words, because I'm like I love The Shining. Like I spent a good part of my 20s, now that I'm a man and 30, I can say that.
Well,
but
now that we're drinking bourbon on the rocks, welcome to the manliest ASMR you've ever heard. Now scratch your beard.
But The Shining.
Yes.
So we meet Jack Torrance, played by Jack Nicholson. One of my big problems with this movie, and it's one that Stephen King shared, is the second Jack Nicholson walks on camera, you're like, oh, he's the bad guy, right? He is the villain? Oh, okay, he's gonna go crazy third act? Yeah, I know. That's fine.
Well, it's like the joke we kept making throughout watching the whole movie. Oh, yeah, that's the Joker. Like,
right.
The second you see him, it's the Joker.
And that is, and Jack Nicholson is capable of giving performances where he is not that.
Yeah.
He was clearly not asked to do that here. And I know Stephen King has a huge problem. That's his one of his two most like problematic views with this movie in terms of it being an adaptation of his work is, yeah, like I kind of based Jack Torrance a little bit on me. So he's in the book. He very clearly starts off as good.
Yeah.
And like likes his family. And like it's about a person's slow descent into madness, because Stephen King was a drug addict and an alcoholic at the time, and he was afraid of what he could possibly become and do.
Yeah.
And in this movie, it's just like, oh no, this is Jack Nicholson. He's nuts.
Wow. Is this our first Stephen King movie on the podcast?
It is.
Okay.
Yeah. There'll be more. I really like Stephen King.
Well, I mean, I assume we have to do it and everything. So isn't that a theme though, where like in a lot of his movie it's the writer,
third of his work is just self-inserted versions of himself into his stories.
Yeah.
He loves that. Stephen King is incredibly prolific, but he really liked cocaine, and you can tell. And like it's clear that like a lot of his work is just, I don't know, I need a character, I guess I'll just write myself.
Sometimes it's really, really bad when there's that self-insertion,
right? But
I mean, I haven't seen any of other Stephen King stuff other than this, but it wasn't that bad.
Yeah, I mean, it's like a Stephen King trope. It never really bothered me that much, because I'm like, yeah, it kind of makes sense that he's like, if I've got to put a main character in this, someone who I really have to get in the head of, it may as well be someone who likes the things I like. But so we meet Jack Torrance, now that we know Stephen King's issue with him. And he's been hired to look over the Overlook Hotel during its winter shutdown for the season. Because it is a little bit like, I mean, I know you'd probably get some wear and tear, but you just not have someone there in the movie.
And just like have everybody come back a little bit early to like
2 weeks before. I bet you could get a snowplow up there by then.
Yeah. And they should have just hired his wife anyways, because she did all the work. I really like Jack Nicholson's delivery on every word that comes out of his mouth.
I think as much as like I said I have my problems, I still love the performance.
Yeah.
You can't take your eyes off him. It's Jack Nicholson coming off of an Oscar win for One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. So it's just peak Nicholson being Nicholson. When we were watching it, I said I can't wait to talk about his career, because like at this point Jack Nicholson is probably somewhere near 40 either side of it, and he's really only just broken into being like a successful leading man, which is not something you hear of that often.
Yeah.
So I've just always thought he was really interesting.
Yeah.
Before this, he'd always done like low budget Corman horror movies. Then he kind of gets his break. He's an easy writer, which changes the way movies are made. Then he wins an Oscar, and then he winds up in The Shining.
Yeah.
That's how you have to pronounce this movie. The Shining.
The Shining. Run, run. Jack Nicholson is the same thing that I had with Kurt Russell, where I've only seen like current Kurt Russell and Jack Nicholson. I haven't seen like in their prime movies
it's
until
so
this
interesting
podcast.
to go back. Have you seen Batman though?
I haven't seen the Batman that he was in. I haven't seen his Joker.
Oh, that movie's so good.
Yeah, I think it's the one Batman movie that I haven't seen.
Have you seen Batman Returns?
Yeah.
But you didn't see Batman?
What year did it come out?
89?
What about Batman Returns?
92. I mean, it's the return of Batman. It's the sequel.
Well, I know. But in relation to my birth, I think Batman Returns was the newest one.
I guess that's true.
So I think I just saw that one and went on from there. Because I've even seen the
the Schumachers,
the bat titties ones. And those were my shit growing up.
Oh, I love those movies. I watch Batman and Robin like at least once every other year.
In our cupboard somewhere, McDonald's had these like glasses. And the bat nipples are like perky on them. Like they stick out.
You have them?
Somewhere in a cupboard.
So bad as a kid.
Somewhere in the cupboard.
The bat nipples, the cup.
You can want both, Matt. It's okay.
That's fair. I mean, I do, but
yeah, it's somewhere in one of our cupboards somewhere. It's great. One day I'll have to find it so we can drink our bourbon out.
Please.
The classiest way to drink bourbon.
Do you know how I like my bourbon?
Bat titties.
Chilled.
Chilled on some iced titties. They could got glass. Arnold Schwarzenegger, Mr. Freeze on the list of impressions.
Yes. You know what he is? Cool. You had to know that one was coming. Come on, man.
I think I understand why you chose that accent for your D&D character now. You've been doing it your whole life.
It's so fun. Oh man, can you imagine Arnold Schwarzenegger in The Shining? You chopped your family up into little pieces. I'm gonna bash your fucking brains in, Danny. It's pretty much the same Danny when you think about it.
Yeah. I wouldn't touch a hair on his little head. I love that son of a bitch.
Can this just be the podcast now? Just abandon the format.
Just a side podcast of just us doing impressions the whole time.
I'd be so down.
But we're here shining.
So we meet his employers who inform him like, oh, it could be really tough staying up here all by yourself.
You might murder your family.
Yeah, that's what the last guy we hired did.
Good luck.
Yeah. And then we cut to Wendy and Danny, his wife and son.
Tony.
And Tony, Danny's imaginary friend who lives in his mouth.
It's the boy that lives in his mouth. Such a weird way of putting it.
Well, but it's so specific that I'm like, oh, that's like really good. Like a kid would say that and not think it was weird. Like, no, he lives in my mouth and he talks out of my hand.
Yeah.
That's what Tony does.
Obviously, idiot.
Yeah.
Which is pretty much what he did to that like psychiatrist lady who's like, I'm done talking to you now. You don't get it.
Because he has like a freak out. He has like one of like his seizures is what it looks like from the outside. But we see what visions he sees. Yeah. He's using the Shining. I don't want to get sued. So he's seeing visions of what we know now is the future for him and his family, which is real upsetting. Red rum, which I don't know why people were surprised that it's murder.
I know. Like the second I saw it, I was like, oh, that's murder. And then all the way 2.5 hours later at the end of the movie, in the reflection it like reveals that it says murder. And I was like,
but I guess she didn't see it written down. Like if somebody just walked up and was like red rum, you wouldn't be like murder.
I mean, if like we're at a horror convention,
and now someone would, but pre this movie,
one of our amazing listeners runs up to us and goes red rum, I'll totally go murder.
Yeah,
I'm a horror bro too.
Maybe you do that, you score a sticker. Who knows?
Yeah.
But The Shining,
red rum.
Yeah, so they do a house call to the doctor, which I feel like wasn't common by the 80s, so it feels weird to me. like having the doctor come for a house call. Also, they've inexplicably just taken Danny's pants off, which is something that for me, I'm always I guess he was like in the bathroom when it happened, but I'm like, it's still weird that you didn't put those back on.
She slapped his thigh when she got up, like the doctor lady. I was like,
yeah, 80s, man. Wild time.
Yeah, because Dr. Sleep just came out, so every single time they kept saying doctor, I just saw Ewan McGregor in my head, and I was waiting for him to say like Dr. Sleep or something.
I believe that is specific to that book. So,
what book?
Dr. Sleep.
Oh, it's a book.
It is. Stephen King wrote a sequel to The Shining. Okay. Yeah,
it's not hey, let's make a sequel to this random movie.
That movie is. I'm really curious to see. I'm fascinated just by the idea of it because Stephen King, like I said earlier, doesn't really like this movie that much.
Yeah.
And his book is very different. So Dr. Sleep is very different. But the movie Dr. Sleep is expressly a sequel to Stanley Kubrick's The Shining.
Oh.
But it's also adapting Stephen King's book.
Oh.
So it is both at the same time.
Okay.
And I think that's I cannot wait to see how they like fix that puzzle together.
I just really want to see it, like I told you, just to see if Ewan McGregor goes, Tony.
I hope so
Redrum. Hello there.
Hi, I'm Dr. Sleep.
What was that?
I went back to school.
What? What?
Yeah, Tony got his PhD. He's Dr. Sleep now.
My God. I thought you were quoting like Obi-Wan or something. Or like a Ewan McGregor movie.
Use the Force. The Force. I like that we're both doing the finger.
I mean, how can you not?
It's just like a reflex.
Every single time we say, oh, another one for the board, I literally write on an imaginary board next to our mics.
We commit to the bit on this podcast.
Hey, oh my God, we're as smart as Stanley Kubrick. Making green tables and black and white movies. We're doing visuals and audio podcast. It's for you, listeners.
Us and the guy who voiced Roger Rabbit.
Oh my God, he's Dr. Sleep. He's literally the sleep doctor.
I would watch the shit out of that movie. But you know what movie we did watch the shit out of? The Shining.
Redrum.
So they decide like, okay, well, we'll move in. So they go to the hotel and they're getting their tour and they meet my favorite character in the whole movie, Dick O'Halloran.
Oh, Scatman.
Played by Scatman Crothers.
Scatman Crothers.
He's the best in this movie, though, man. Like, he's the best. He's the only good person in this whole fucking movie.
Yeah, pretty much.
Well, no, Wendy's pretty good, I guess.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, I knew that people had a problem with their performance, but I didn't have that much of a problem with it.
Oh, we'll get into that. Don't worry. I really Shelley Duvall plays Wendy Torrance in this movie. I really like her in this movie. I think she delivers on exactly what the way this character is adapted asks for. Stephen King, though, has said, and he is not wrong, that is his other big problem with this movie. In my book, the character from the get-go like fights back, pushes back against him, and is a strong, like independently minded person.
Oh, she's not submissive.
Yes, and he said that Stanley Kubrick reduced Wendy to a screaming dish towel whose only purpose is to try not to get killed. He said it is one of the most misogynistic takes on a character he has ever seen. And having read some of the book, I still need to finish it. It's really long. He's not wrong. Like when you start reading the book, you're gonna be like, oh wow, they like butchered this character. But for what the movie is, as its own thing, as I think movies have to stand as, I think she does a great job.
Yeah.
I think she's very good in the role in what she is asked to do.
At a certain point, I was like, oh my God, because throughout the whole movie, she thinks everything is normal. Like her husband's just losing his mind and her kid needs like help. And
all of a sudden fucking ghosts.
Yeah, all of a sudden, like she just almost got murdered and like she's finally getting out of there and all the ghosts appear to her.
Yeah, a bear man is blowing a butler and she's like, what?
Yeah.
Which is the appropriate reaction.
Yeah, she had a definite appropriate reaction to that.
I am too high for this shit.
Oh my God, she was too high for this shit.
Yeah.
But we're at the beginning of the movie.
Yes. Oh, I did forget to mention earlier, and it's important because it comes back later. She says that Jack Nicholson broke Tandy's arm by accident, 5 months ago, and he hasn't had a drop of alcohol since then. Yeah. That's important. I'll tell you why later.
Okay. But we met Scatman, and you find out.
Yeah, he also has The Shining.
Yeah, which I didn't know that was the thing.
That is a thing that actually pops up a lot in Stephen King's work. It's normally not called The Shining. Like that is Dick O'Halloran. That is Dick's word for it. But like you see it pop up, like especially in kids in Stephen King books. Like the book of it kind of implies that their bond is so strong because they don't know they're doing it, but they all shine. Another one of his books that's really bad and has a bad movie. It does it. People throughout like all of Stephen King's work is connected mostly through the Dark Tower book series, where people just like are like, yeah, The Shining, we all have that. Like it's fine, not everyone, but you know, like it's just like a thing because it's a fantasy world.
Pennywise is like some universe being that's like in other. Like that ties into other books and stuff.
Pennywise himself does not pop up, but I mean, like
it's a part of the same universe, like in other areas.
Yeah, there are creatures like Pennywise that pop up in other stories. There are references to him, like in one of the books, someone sees graffiti many years later after the events of it that say Pennywise lives. Somebody else says, like, one time when I was a kid, I swear to God, I saw a clown in the sewer. Which is just like great little world. Yeah, great little world building. Yeah. Like, oh, all this stuff. You know, Carrie has psychic powers. That's the plot of that story.
Oh, it's Carrie Stephen King too.
Yeah. Firestarter is also Stephen King. So like psychics just exist in the Stephen King universe. So.
Okay. Yeah, because I knew like spooky shit goes on in the movie, like with all the like famous shots and everything. But I didn't know it was tied to the kid and tied to like, I didn't know how it all tied together. Right. So when I found that, I was like, whoa.
Yeah. Does such a good job of weaving it all together. And, it's so good. And Scatman Crothers is just like delightful. Yeah. And I just love him in this movie. Like, I want to hang out with Dick Halloran because of him.
Yeah. I wanted more of him in the movie.
Yeah. That is if there's one major flaw to this movie that keeps me from truly loving it. Not enough Scatman.
What if it in Dr. Sleep cuts the Scatman? Oh wait, no, he died.
I mean, that is a thing I'm very curious about. In the book, Dick lives.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
I guess he's like a character in the book Dr. Sleep. So what do you do for this movie? And then everyone leaves except the family, and then fucking nothing happens for an hour. Like it's deliberate and I like it, but there are times where I'm like, you could really lift like 20 minutes out of this movie and it would still totally work.
Before you watch it, you're like 2.5 hours, strap in.
It could be 2.
Yeah.
I understand you need it to be longish because like you want to feel.
You need the atmosphere.
Yeah, it's the atmosphere, feeling like you're kind of losing your mind with Jack Nicholson. It's kind of, I think, something that I know you don't like it, but the Blair Witch pulled on of the like, oh, if you have to sit with these people for 2.5 hours, you're going to want something to happen. Yeah. It's very intentional. I appreciate that. But 2 hours is still very long. Even maybe like 2:15.
I like how
this is where I'm losing people and I know it and I'm fine with that.
I don't necessarily agree with that, but I can see where you're coming from because to me, I want to say that too, but I was just enjoying all the shots and everything.
I don't know what you would cut. That's the problem. Like, I feel like a little bit of editing would really improve this movie. Like someone saying, no, Stanley. Obviously, no one did that his
entire career.
Like at this point in his career, no one was going to say no to Stanley Kubrick.
Yeah.
So like, I get it. And again, I don't know what you would cut, but it feels like there's some fat there that you could trim. Like maybe some shots could be just shorter.
Yeah.
But we do get one of my favorite sequences of the whole movie, which is Danny riding through the whole hotel on his trike. And that's where the sound design is like, mwah, chef's kiss.
Scatman chef.
Yes.
It's a kiss from the Scatman.
It's a kiss to bop 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 bop.
And that was the thing, because I knew about this scene where he's on his trike and he sees the 2 girls. So every single time he was like going around corners, I was waiting for it.
Like this movie like almost improves because even as someone who I've watched this at least 2 times before now, you almost forget. So the movie still scares you and improves.
Yeah.
Because now I'm waiting for those little girls and I kind of forget where they're going to pop up because I kind of lose myself in this movie.
Yeah.
This movie's really good. Like,
is.
I know I started off saying, like, there's going to be some things I'm going to say you're not going to like, but it is really good.
Yeah. Just a lot of pretty shots.
Yeah. Danny sitting on the second most iconic carpet in the world, right behind the Big Lebowski, because that one ties the room together. My favorite, I can tie it to animation because we're animation nerds. That carpet is the carpet that Sid has in his house in Toy Story.
Yeah, oh yeah, I did know that.
Because the people who were in the graduating class that all the Pixar guys were in are all like obsessed with The Shining. So then we start really seeing Jack Torrance unravel pretty quickly. Yeah. Because they say, like, we've been here for a month. And it's like, that's way too fast. And then, which it gets to the problem with this is, like, I never feel like Jack Nicholson likes his family and is going crazy. He's just like, oh, I cannot wait to get that hotel and fucking murder the two of them.
The entire movie, he seemed like he was about to snap at any moment. Oh, even from the beginning.
From the moment they're in a car together, when the kid is like, I'm hungry. Not like, feed me now. Just like, I'm kind of hungry. We should eat your fucking breakfast. Sit back down. It's fine. He learned it on TV. Like, everything he says is like, fine. I hate you.
He learned it on the television. Yeah. Cannibalism. He watched Texas Chainsaw.
Probably.
It's fine, Mom. Leatherface wasn't that bad. I felt bad for him. He's an abusive family. He deserved better.
Do you think Danny Torrance can like really relate to Leatherface? It's like, oh man, bro, I get it. I get it.
Yeah. I feel it. My dad's a dick too. I get you, man.
Your brother sucks. My dad sucks. I understand, man. Ghosts broke into my place of residence. Teenagers broke into yours.
You know, it's fine. I didn't eat any of them, but
right.
I got. Tony told me not to. Maybe you need a Tony.
Yes. Let's work that out for you, buddy.
Maybe there's a little boy that needs to live in your mouth.
Well, I mean, he's probably eaten one or two. So.
We're here to talk about The Shining.
We start seeing him really kind of unravel. Just lots of like. I guess this is where the fat could be trimmed. Lots of slow zoom in shots on Jack Nicholson looking crazy.
My favorite scenes, because it kept happening, is when he went up to the bar and all of a sudden the bartender's there and stuff.
I love that.
I love that. Like I said, I love his delivery, but mostly when he was talking to the bartender.
Yes.
Just everything he said.
Everything is
amazing.
Perfect. I mean, really, like I said, like not a ton happens right here. So I guess we could really kind of skip to that. Like it's just Jack Nicholson is clearly losing his mind. He starts being more openly aggressive towards not just like, oh, I'm so sick of this, but like when he tells his wife, like, if I'm in here, you don't come the fuck in.
Like, and she's just like, I just want to know if you want a sandwich. Yeah. Damn.
I'll tell you if I want a fucking sandwich. Like that's his tone now. Like he's gone past like, well, you should have eaten at home to I'm going to murder you.
My book.
Yeah.
I need to write my book.
Oh, right in here is where we get the great shot of the maze.
Oh, yeah.
Where it pulls out and pulls out and pulls out until it's the model. Or no, wait, I'm thinking of it backwards. It goes in and in and in.
Yeah.
Yeah. Stuff like that. I'm like, I'm here for it. And then it's just back to like Jack Nicholson. Oh, when's he going to do it? All right. So after all of that waiting, we didn't really go in sequence. Shit gets real.
He room 247.
Oh, that's right. Before that is room 237.
237?
237, which in the book is 217, but the hotel that they filmed the exterior of this movie at, because actually all of the interiors were sets that they built. They just built a hotel basically, so that Stanley Kubrick could do whatever he wanted with it. In the book it is 217. In the movie it is 237 because the hotel requested we actually have a room 217. We don't have a room 237. Can you change it?
Yeah. I mean,
smart on their part.
Yeah. But I mean, nowadays, I feel like people would go just to
apparently people still frequently request room 217.
Yeah.
Because everybody like knows. That's like one of those like, hey, did you know facts? So anybody that obsessed with The Shining is like, yeah.
I want to go make out with a bath lady.
That scene is so weird and upsetting, and I love it.
But yeah, so Danny wanders in there. You don't see what happens.
Yeah.
And then cuts to him walking to his mom and dad with like strangle marks.
Yeah, he's clearly got bruises on his neck.
Yeah.
And Wendy, of course, immediately thinks that Jack did it.
Because he just had a night terror.
Yeah. About murdering them. So that's when he gets angry and dances in a hallway. Fucking Footloose style.
But yeah, then there's the bar scene, and then she comes in.
Yes.
And it's like, there's a lady.
But that first bar scene.
Yeah.
I said it was going to come back. He's talking to the bartender just about his troubles, as you do. Mm-hmm. There are so many fascinating things in the scene. I don't even know where to start. One, every time that he sees ghosts until he's locked in the pantry, there's a mirror. So a lot of people seeing it until the end, when it becomes expressly supernatural. Apparently, if you hadn't read the book, the movie genuinely led you to believe, like, oh, he's just losing it. These people are all imaginary. Because even when he sees the woman in room 237, there's a mirror behind her. And then later he's like, what? Nothing was there. In the bathroom, there's a mirror. In the party room, there are mirrors everywhere. So is he just nuts? But then and a lot of people actually theorize, like, there were no ghosts. And I'm like, no, she saw the ghosts. She's not him.
Yeah.
Who opened that pantry? But
smart house.
Yeah. Yes. But the other one I'll focus in on here is passage of time in this movie is so weird, and you don't know who the unreliable narrator is, and I really like that. Because talking to Lloyd the bartender, he says, it's the part we quoted earlier, I love the little son of a bitch, I wouldn't hurt a hair on his head. He says, she'll never let me forget it, and he starts telling the story, and it's pretty much the same until he says, that was 5 years ago, and I quit drinking 5 months ago. She said he only broke his arm 5 months ago, and that was when he quit drinking. Who's lying? Is he convincing himself, like, I haven't harmed him since then, and you know what? Then on my own, I quit drinking. And she says it took hurting our kid to make him quit. Or is she lying to herself? Like, no. It was just a couple months ago. It's fine.
Yeah. Because when she said that, I totally got the vibe of like, oh, she's like downplaying what he did.
Oh, 100%. This movie is like a brilliant metaphor for the abuse that people face in relationships.
Yeah.
Then she comes running in and everything disappears from around him and he's just alone in that ballroom. And she says, there's a woman in the hotel. Danny told me there's a woman.
Also, I feel like every single time he went back and like took a drink, I feel like he was sipping the Kool-Aid and went crazier.
Probably.
Every single time he
did.
the
cup never got emptier, except for when he drinks it all down.
But yeah, so Jack Nicholson goes to room 237.
Yes.
But there is a lot of build up to that scene, so I was expecting it to be worse than it was.
It's the tough thing of like knowing that scene is there. Like I knew vaguely about this movie when I saw it, but I didn't like know that scene. So watching it unfold without any prior knowledge in any way was like, what?
Yeah, because to me, that same scene in Ready Player One was scarier.
Well, she's a little more of a monster in that, isn't
and she like runs at him from behind.
This is more like they're just messing with him now. They want to make him lose his mind.
Yeah, I guess. But like that's what I was expecting. Like her to run at him. More Conjuring than
more It Too.
Yeah,
the lady.
Yeah.
I saw one of the funniest things I've ever seen, which was somebody being like, that scene is so ageist because when she gets old, now she's supposed to be scary. And literally everyone was like, no, she's scary because she's dead. Like she's a rotting corpse. Like, did you see the movie? Like, normally I'm on board with like a hot take, but I was just like, no, I think you got this one way off. I'm on board for a hot take, but what? Yeah, people are wild, man.
That is why I don't use Twitter.
Yeah, that's fair. I'm on our Twitter. Come send me a message.
Yeah, go tweet at Matt. Keep me out of it.
Please help me.
Keep me out of it. But yeah, so he runs out.
Yeah, and then he just acts like nothing happened.
Yeah.
Which is the creepiest choice. So, but it lends credence to a lot of people's like, oh, at this point, he probably even thinks I'm just losing my mind. There are no ghosts. There was a mirror there. I've been freaking out. I've been having these nightmares. That's all it was.
Yeah, I was trying to figure out if he was trying to be in denial or if he was playing along with it.
I've always read it, at least at this point, as denial. Because he doesn't like bring up like, well, I was talking to Lloyd about it. Because then it would be like, oh, he's in,
Yeah. Oh, my pal Lloyd down at the bar.
So then he goes back down to talk to Lloyd some more in another scene that I just love, which is, again, I don't know what you cut, but I feel like you could cut something.
Yeah.
Well, at this point, I believe Danny starts having another freak out because he's being contacted by Dick O'Halloran. Mm-hmm. I can never remember if it's Dick Halloran or Dick O'Halloran. I'm going to keep confusing it. Just go with it.
I just called him
Scatman. Scatman is like checking in on him because he knows there's a storm. And that's when when Wendy, she starts like really freaking out, and she goes down to get Jack, but she knows he's been acting strangely, so she takes the bat with her and she finds this book, which is, again, just a good scene. Mm-hmm. But all I can think every time is, what if she got like 2 pages in and then it was just normal and she was like, oh, whew, okay, cool. I was real worried there for a minute. But then Jack shows up and she has to pretend it's normal, but she just can't. Yeah. She's just having a breakdown because she knows like he's going to kill me, which is one of the most effectively terrifying scenes I've ever seen in a movie. Again, the metaphor for abuse makes it even scarier.
Yeah.
And because Kubrick is very particular, he shot a lot of film. When she is backing up the stairs, I believe that scene still holds the Guinness Book of World Records record for most takes of a single scene consecutively, which, I mean, you work in the film industry. Mm-hmm. How many takes is a lot of takes to you?
Like in the hundreds.
Yes. I believe it was at like 175. Maybe it's a little lower. Like to the point that like everyone like was like, oh, you gotta stop, man.
Yeah.
I'll get more on that later. But yeah, Kubrick is very particular. Another person who's like that is David Fincher. David Fincher isn't as much of a dick, but you know. Yeah, and again, Kubrick is very particular. So if it's just your hands in a shot, that was actually Jack Nicholson. That was not his stand-in. That was not an extra. He was like, no, we have to make sure the hands are held exactly the way Jack Nicholson would hold his hands up. But she finally gets him in the head with the bat, knocks him out, and drags him into the pantry where she locks him in. Mm-hmm. He starts trying to he starts trying to gaslight her. Which again is so creepy and weird.
Which Jack, even though it's like terrible, Jack Nicholson did a really good job of selling it.
Yeah, but I love that every time they cut back to him, he's doing the "I'm so injured" voice, but he's making his evil face. Yeah. Like, I know this is bullshit. Yeah. I have not come to and realized I'm the bad guy.
Yeah.
But I really hope you think that. Like, it's so terrifying. He's so good in this movie.
Yeah.
Like, from this point on is why you hire Jack Nicholson. Mm-hmm. Like,
yeah.
I can't imagine anybody else doing it this well.
Yeah.
So I can suffer through the fact that we don't see a slow descent into madness. He's just always kind of mad.
Yeah.
Again, we've talked about mental health and horror and how it's not great. So excuse me for saying words like crazy and mad and losing it.
Yeah.
But that is clearly what this movie thinks. So
yeah. Yeah. Because I think when we point out like mental health is when they specifically say like, oh, this person has this mental disorder or whatever.
Yeah.
This, it's just like
Jack Nicholson isn't not actually crazy. There are ghosts.
The ghosts are making him crazy.
Yes. Right. The ghosts are a metaphor for cocaine. They are.
Before then, he goes into the party.
Yeah.
And then meets...
That's when he meets Grady, not just Lloyd.
Yeah.
Grady tells him, you've always been the caretaker here.
See, that's the type of ghost stuff I love.
This is my favorite Jack Nicholson take, which is when I'm like, man, I never realized how much of a Jack Nicholson has an overbite. When he's biting his lower lip and sticking his tongue out at the same time. He's like, you chopped your family into little pieces. I'm like, oh.
I know, every single time he like stuck his tongue out, remember?
And he literally goes, and I love it.
But yeah. And
10 out of 10.
Grady comes and is like, what you doing, little bitch?
Pretty much.
Step it up.
We know you can't handle it. Do we have to kill her? No? Good. Fine. Get the fuck out there, man.
Smart house. Unlocked.
Halftime pep talk.
You got this.
I believe in you. I picture him now like a mom. Like, hey, buddy, made you lunch. Mm-hmm. Oh, I forgot my favorite thing about the pantry. that I'd only noticed this time.
Open Oreos and stuff.
He's got the Oreos and peanut butter. Like he's just been going to town. Like, well, I guess if I'm stuck in here, I'm gonna make myself a bed of rice bags and really just chow down on some peanut butter Oreos.
And then Grady.
That's like my ideal day, dude.
I know. Maybe this pantry thing isn't so bad.
I didn't get a murderer, but Oreos.
I mean, there's enough food in here to last me until people start coming back.
Exactly.
So.
I'm all set. So many Oreos. Wow.
He opens the door. Grady opens the door and he's like, "Oh, you got your Oreos and peanut butters.
Good job, buddy. You get out there. I believe in you. You had a good snack. You well rested. How's that concussion?
Oh, it's worse. All right. Well, hurry up." Oh, Scatman shows up.
Scatman is not there yet. He decides I need to go over there because no one can get a hold of them.
Yeah.
So he gets on his plane from Florida and starts flying over.
Yeah.
That's when we realize like all of this has happened in the course of like 4 hours.
But then the iconic scene happens.
Yeah,
he chases him
down the door.
Yeah.
Which there is some footage you can find of Jack Nicholson hyping himself up with the axe right before they do the take. It's awesome.
That
because it's him just standing there swinging the axe at nothing and like yelling and like getting real into it and like pounding on his chest. It's great.
So it's like our red leather thing.
Yeah. It's his warm up.
So we need to get an axe.
Yeah.
To really amp up this podcast.
That's what we're missing.
That was my favorite shot. Is when he swings the axe and the axe makes contact with the door, the camera shakes.
Yeah.
Like, and it's not like hitting something accidental shake. It's intentional.
Yeah.
Which
I love it.
Because I operate cameras.
The way the camera follows him as he swings is so good. I mean, that's why you hire the guy who invented the camera you're using.
That's what I was gonna say. Like, I operate cameras. I know how hard that is to pull off, especially doing it more than once.
And knowing how particular Kubrick is, how many takes do you think they did?
On film.
Yeah.
Like.
Okay. Fun fact. Did you notice that Jack Nicholson is really efficient at chopping down doors?
Mm-hmm.
You would probably assume that's a fake door, right? Something easy to cut through.
I did not.
It was real because turns out Jack Nicholson had been a firefighter before he became famous. So they tried using fake doors and he could knock them out in like 2 blows. Because he was like, this is like balsa wood. Yeah, I know how to cut through. Wham! So they just had to go get the real doors. And they went through like 6 of them for each shot. Or for each time he's cutting through a door. Like
that's amazing.
That's why he's like so good at it.
That's so good.
Yeah. But then, little pigs.
Mm-hmm.
I'll huff and I'll puff. I love it. I love everything about it. Like, this is not the scene you cut if you're going to cut something.
Again, this is why you're a bad writer, Jack. You're just reading kids' books if that's all you can quote.
Come on, man. Chaucer, Shakespeare, get some real influences.
Start being like, oh, Juliet.
How much better is this movie if he just starts reciting Shakespearean soliloquies? Because he's like, what? I was an English teacher.
Oh my, he was a teacher. That's right. But yeah, he gets enough to get his little face in and be like, here's Johnny.
Just in time, just in the nick of time, she gets Danny out the window and he slides down, still kind of zonked out because he's being controlled by Tony.
Mm-hmm. Which they don't elaborate on whatsoever.
No, in the book, they do.
Okay.
In the book, it is implied that Tony is either his subconscious or his future self reaching back using the Shining to try to warn him. It's still kind of ambiguous, but like I love the idea that Ewan McGregor is like, look the fuck out.
What if Ewan McGregor has to use the red rum voice throughout the entire movie because that's just how he talks?
What if you were, oh, hello there.
Hello there.
Oh, what the fuck do you think you're doing? Ewan is mine.
Come back.
God damn it, Stanley.
Come back. Come to Disney Plus. Come do a show.
It's gonna be good.
It's gonna be good.
It's gonna be real good.
Look at all the memes the kids make of you. Come back. Please, you're my only hope.
Get it? Do you get it?
Do you get it?
Do you get it?
Do you get it?
Ewan. Do you get it?
Whatever, Steve gets it. Right, Steve?
And instead, Steve is like, no, this time I'm on Stanley's side. Oh, God damn it. I knew you loved him.
The second I saw Ready Player One, I was like, God damn it, Steve. But Shining.
Yes. So she gets him out in time, and it's about then that Scatman pulls up in his Snowcat. Or also earlier, Jack Nicholson destroyed their Snowcat, their only way out.
Yeah.
He pulls up in his that he has rented to help save them. And Jack Nicholson hears him, pulls up, and this is my favorite sequence because it is the perfect example of the Hitchcockian, like, you know, seeing a bomb go off isn't scary, but if you know the bomb is ticking and you have to listen to it tick, but no one else knows, it's way more terrifying. We know Jack Nicholson is there with an axe and that he heard him, and we're just like, just do it. Just do it.
I literally thought he was going to save the day because he's Scatman. I literally, because
no, Scatman.
Skibbity boop bop up Scatman. I genuinely thought he was going to save the day.
Yeah.
So that's why I was very disappointed. Straight up murders Scatman.
Just and
just goes,
I love everything about that. I love that inspired Brad Dourif. Clearly he's just been doing that as the Chucky voice since then. That is all Chucky does. Anytime he enters a room is he Nicholson yells, which is double fun because he's clearly doing a Nicholson impression. Guess what movie Brad Dourif almost won an Oscar for that Jack Nicholson did? They were in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest together. So I love to think that he's like, yeah, I do a great impression of Jack. Watch. And they're like, that's the voice. That's Chucky.
Well, now I have a fun fact for everyone who watched Chucky.
Yeah. We don't have Nicholson money, but we got Dourif money, and he does a great Nicholson.
And then years later, we'll get Mark Hamill.
Yep.
Who is also Joker.
Yeah. It all comes back around.
But yeah, he straight up kills Scatman, and then Danny pops out of his little cupboard and he chases Danny.
Yes, so he chases him into the maze after killing Scatman Crothers, and it's right here, intercut. He is going through a literal maze, while Wendy is going through a metaphorical maze of the hotel, which I love.
What the fuck was that dog thing?
Okay, I told you I knew something about it. Apparently in the book they explain that, like, at the hotel, like in like the 40s, they used to hold, or like the 60s, I think. I'm maybe way off. I didn't get to this point in the book. I read it on like Wikipedia. So I apologize to everyone who loves the book. But essentially, like, like swinger parties used to happen there, and they do like weird shit. So she's seeing the ghosts of some swingers, I guess, who are like, the hotel was our place, you know. But it's mostly just there to be creepy. Like,
yeah,
what?
I was just like, why? What?
Yeah,
there was no build up to that.
It is effective. Then she runs into the Pirates of the Caribbean set. What is this? I had forgotten about the room full of skeletons with the cobwebs. All I can think was pirates.
Well, when she first ran in and was like, all I saw was the spider webs. So I was like, they're just spider webs. It's fine.
Yeah,
but then it showed the skeletons. I was like, oh, okay.
Fair.
I see now.
Yeah, so she's trying to get out of the hotel to get to Danny, but clearly the ghosts are trying to keep her there. And Jack is trying to get to Danny to kill him. Yeah. Then Danny, I still think controlled by Tony, who might be him when he's older, instead of leaving footprints in the snow, starts backtracking through his footprints so you can't follow him. And I love it.
Smart boy.
Yeah.
And then like crawls behind a hedge and like wipes his tracks on his way.
The softest, powderiest snow I've ever seen.
That's because it's a movie.
Yeah, it was not winter when they filmed this.
Real doors, fake snow.
Yes. But I love that whole sequence in the hedge maze. I love like how you can just, it's the only time, one of the only times I can think of where there's like an effective actor dying take, because Jack Nicholson is going so broad with it. I'm like, oh, I believe that. Yeah. I believe that that's how this dude dies. Yeah. I never watched this movie with subtitles. That was fascinating to read what the dialogue is. One time, like, come back. Come on. What are you doing? Wendy.
One time he said hello and the subtitle said HULLO.
In their defense. Yeah. Hello.
That's what he said. Danny gets out.
Yeah.
Finds his mom.
They both escape.
Quick cut. Jack Nicholson's frozen.
Yes.
And then
they show a photo from 1921.
Jack
is there.
That's the question I have. What?
That's not like in the book or anything. That's purely an invention of the movie. I think meant to give some ambiguity to it all of like, was he always there? Is he a reincarnation of one of the caretakers?
Yeah.
Did Grady possess him and now he is Grady? Like, because we don't understand why he did what he did, except ghosts. Like that just kind of leads to more of like, why did he do it? The movie had a different ending that went to theaters, and then they cut it out later. So when they escape, it cuts to them after they've escaped before they zoom in on the photo at the hotel. Apparently, you can't really find this scene. People just talk about it because the movie, it made money.
Yeah.
But so people talk about this all the time, that there's a scene that got cut out 2 weeks after the movie had been in theaters. Stanley Kubrick requested they remove it because he decided he didn't like it. Where we cut to Danny and Wendy in the hospital, and the boss of Jack comes and says like, no, they found his body up there. He froze to death. It's really too bad that this like happened again. We really didn't want this to happen. We're so glad you guys are okay. And he goes, and they found this, so I wanted to make sure you got it back. And he hands Danny the tennis ball that rolls to him from nowhere earlier, implying that the boss was in on it all. Almost like maybe they're sacrificing people to the hotel and the spirits there. So, but then the book ends. Jack has a moment of clarity and says like, I don't want to have to hurt you too. This place is making me do it. I haven't been maintaining the rooms all night. You need to leave. And then the hotel blows up with him inside. Which is why I don't know how you do Dr. Sleep, which is the movie is being sold expressly on Return to the Overlook. And the book is sold on Return to the smoldering ash pile of the Overlook. And I want to see this movie.
Maybe they rebuilt it.
No, because it's expressly a sequel to Stanley Kubrick's Shining. I've heard there's actually not that much Overlook in it, that it's the trailers kind of really oversell it because they're so afraid of like, no, it's The Shining, it's The Shining.
You remember?
Remember?
That was another thing I think you pointed out in Poltergeist, how it was like a old graveyard that got moved. In this, it's like Indian burial ground.
Well, they say we think it was an Indian burial ground. I guess it's kind of their way around it. I think in the book they never say that. It's more just the implication of when bad things happen.
Yeah.
So I believe that the Indian burial ground pops up in a number of other King stories, which sucks.
Yeah.
But
because Wendy also pointed out, are these Indian?
All the Native American art. There is a movie that I highly recommend everyone watch called Room 237. That is a kind of a documentary where essentially they have on all these film critics and scholars. You never see anyone's face. It's just clips of The Shining. And they're just talking about their weird theories about The Shining. Like, this movie is Stanley Kubrick admitting to faking the moon landing. Because that's always been the theory, is that Stanley Kubrick shot the fake moon landing. I mean, why else would a kid wear a NASA shirt? Because kids like NASA? Or this movie is a metaphor. This one actually holds more ground, but I don't think it was his intent. This movie is a metaphor for the genocide of Native Americans. They keep bringing up Native American art. They keep bringing up the fact that they had to kill all the Native Americans to get them out of there. Jack Nicholson says, this is the white man's burden. This is the white man's burden.
Also confusing.
Yeah. So I don't think Kubrick was like, yes, it's definitely a metaphor for Native Americans. But I think that stuff probably influenced him a little bit. Yeah. But in Room 237, I love how obsessed people are with this movie. Yeah, that is the most fascinating part of it. Literally, there is a can where this product's logo used to be a Native American face. They're like, there's an inconsistency, and Kubrick wasn't known for those. In one take, when they cut to Jack in the pantry, the head is facing outward. Then they cut away and cut back. The head isn't facing outward. Clearly a metaphor. And it's like, no, I think Jack Nicholson bumped into that can. It's a fascinating look at like how obsessed people are with movies, and as someone obsessed with them, I think it's great.
I mean, it's like we talked about.
Everybody go watch it.
Go watch it. It's like what we talked about on one episode about the Dead Meat, their podcast episode on cursed movies. Yeah. You can make anything cursed if you look too hard into it.
Exactly. Well, and especially a movie like this that is rife with metaphor.
Yeah.
It really and ambiguity. It really bothers me that they're like, we need to invent it. But I also find it fascinating that like there is all this weird little stuff that's like, did he know that he was doing that? Was he messing with us? Or did he not even realize he'd put it in there?
Yeah.
Because like obviously like, the moon landing stuff is like, well, one, the moon landing happened. And two, it's just a NASA shirt. That's all you got. But then like the Native American one is like, oh. And then there's other stuff that like I actually believe Kubrick would do. Like when the boss stands up and he walks towards Jack Nicholson, Kubrick was famously really into subliminal imagery. When he stands up and walks over to Jack Nicholson's head is exactly eye level with the dude's crotch. And he stands in front of like a file holder, and the file holder is exactly level with his crotch also. And it looks like it is penetrating Jack Nicholson's mouth because this dude is in a position of power and he's controlling him. So that I'm like, I could see someone like as obsessive as Kubrick framing that way. I cannot see him being like, this is about Native American genocide and the sensitivity that we should all show. Otherwise we're just like monsters, you know, like, no,
it's like 2 trains of thought. Oh, yes, we'll make this about deep political issues to bring awareness. Nah, dicks.
I choose to believe in Dick.
Well, he was a great character before he died.
He was. It's true. But now I really want to get into what is the thing I find most fascinating about The Shining behind the scenes.
You took your jacket off for this one.
Oh, yes, I did. We're about to get into it, Zach. So The Shining is a metaphorical look at the suffering a woman is put through by a man in power who's trying to control every aspect of her life and maybe even kill her. Or as I call it, the relationship between Stanley Kubrick and Shelley Duvall. Because he was fucking terrible to her.
Oh, God.
I don't want to make you hate this movie, but you're going to be like, we should be more critical of it. So as I said before, Stanley Kubrick, kind of a dick, very particular. But there's a difference between being exacting, and being an asshole. You know, he likes a lot of takes. So when Scatman Crothers had a breakdown because he was like, I don't know what you want from me, Stanley Kubrick was like, we're going to take a break. I'm going to go talk to him. We'll figure this out. But he did still give a dude a breakdown, you know, especially since Scatman wasn't really like an actor.
Yeah.
So but he said like, we're going to take 5, you know. He did not afford those things to Shelley Duvall, who he would constantly berate on set. He would say things like, hey, Shelley, why are you trying to ruin my movie? Everyone is here waiting on you and you're wasting our time. Why are you trying to ruin everyone's day? When she would say things like, if I can just get one more take, he'd say, you know, I don't think you deserve one more take. If you could do it, you would have done it by now. There is behind the scenes footage of him saying things like that, to the point she had an emotional breakdown. She got very sick. She started losing her hair because she was so stressed out by all of it. And still, when people would say, Shelley, are you okay? He would walk over. There's footage of this, pull them aside and say, don't sympathize with Shelley. She doesn't deserve it. Stanley Kubrick's a fucking monster. He made some of the best movies of all time, but is any art worth that? Is the most interesting thing you can ask about that guy. But then there's also stuff like he was very concerned with all the kids in the movie, to the point that Danny Lloyd, who played Danny Torrance, said, I didn't know I was in a horror movie as a child because he was so protective over what I saw and when. The twins did not know they were in a horror movie. He and Jack Nicholson got along great. It was really just Shelley Duvall that he just tortured. Supposedly it's because he was like, he cast her off of a movie that she was very good in. She was in an Altman movie, much like the mom from Nightmare on Elm Street. And then she showed up, and the difference between Roger Altman and Stanley Kubrick is Altman is very like, no, just feel it out. Go for it. We'll talk about it. We'll do a couple of takes.
Yeah.
Be natural. And Kubrick is so precise. So she got there and she couldn't do that precision that he wanted because that's a different kind of acting.
Yeah.
You hear the same thing about people who aren't dicks. You hear that apparently about, we were talking about him earlier.
Wes Anderson.
Wes Anderson and apparently Ralph Fiennes, who was in the hotel movie,
Grand Budapest
Hotel. It's the only one I haven't seen.
That's so good. A lot of imagery that looks like The Shining, like the outside shots, especially.
But apparently, like, Ralph Fiennes is a pretty naturalistic actor, despite everything that I've ever seen him in, and seeming like very Shakespearean and over the top. He's very like method, and like he cannot handle when Wes Anderson is like, okay, cut, don't move in the new background. He's like, what are you talking about? Like,
I mean,
that's a particular thing,
because it's like Quentin Tarantino, when he's like doing a lot of takes, because Quentin Tarantino is pretty particular. He has the chant of, why are we doing it? Because we love movies.
Yeah.
He's not like,
and I'm sure if Kurt Russell was like, I can't, Quentin, I don't know what you want from me, Quentin would be like, Jesus, we need to take a break.
Yeah.
Okay, Kurt, go sit down. Kubrick did not do that for her. Like he literally almost ruined her life, and he kind of ruined her career.
Yeah, because I mean, I didn't know her in anything other than Shining.
Yeah. Well, because this movie is not a hit when it comes out. I mean, like, it makes money, but critically it is panned, and people don't like it at the time. Not just critics, like audiences. It's kind of a pessimistic movie.
In the 80s too, where it's like Star Wars, the hero tales and everything.
Right. But even something like Halloween, she is so triumphant in the end, even if it has the ambiguity of where did he go.
Yeah.
She wins. In this movie, she doesn't really win. It's just by luck that she gets out. It's kind of pessimistic.
Yeah.
He got nominated at the first ever Razzies for Worst Director. The movie got nominated for Worst Film, and I believe Shelley Duvall won Worst Actress. Jeez. Which is nuts to me because she's so good in this movie.
Yeah.
And she never fully recovers career-wise, and especially hearing all this stuff. We talked earlier about mental illness.
Yeah.
A few years ago, she went on like Dr. Phil or something, which is really gross. I fucking hate Dr. Phil.
Yeah.
But they had her on talking about Robin Williams, and she was like, no, he's still alive. It's fine. He's fine. We're all fine. Like, clearly, like, she was in the midst of a breakdown, and people exploited her for that, which makes you wonder about her mental health during this movie and being pushed that way.
Yeah.
And just not respecting actors or people in general is not cool, especially like when people can totally duplicate the aesthetic without being fucking assholes.
Yeah.
Like, Jordan Peele is apparently the nicest dude on set. Quentin Tarantino, not a bad guy apparently to work with.
Yeah.
So it definitely casts this movie in another light.
Yeah.
Makes it scarier because knowing that she was just living a horror movie.
Yeah.
But I still really like this movie. Again, I'm not saying you're not allowed to like it.
Yeah.
To the people listening. I just think that's one of the more interesting things about it. And Shelley Duvall actually came around on Kubrick by the end of before the end of his life, saying like, he's an artist I really respect. I really like that performance, and I'm glad he got it out of me. But it's still not worth it.
Yeah.
Like, it sucks.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. I mean, I'm one of those people that can separate the art from the people behind it. Like, I can just take the movie as a movie.
And it's that thing of like, he didn't like hit her. He didn't like not let her take. He did let her take breaks, obviously.
Yeah.
He just pushed her harder than she was clearly comfortable with being pushed, and you need to respect that.
Yeah.
So he's not like the worst person ever to ever make a movie. There are way worse people.
Yeah.
I mean, for some reason, we still let Roman Polanski make movies.
Yeah.
But yeah, it still sucks.
Any fun behind the scenes stuff?
No. Jack Nicholson and Stanley Kubrick like to play chess between takes.
That's fun.
Everything I can think of now is like, I mean, that's not like fun. It's a fun fact, but it's not like fun. Like, okay, so they wanted the set to look like it was snowy outside and shining that bright light you get with snow inside. It was not winter. It was England, and it was not snowing. So they literally just had to turn lights up as high as they would go at all times to blast light into the set, because Kubrick liked natural lighting too. So he wanted it to just be light coming in from the windows.
Yeah.
So literally the set was incredibly hot, typically 90 or above for most scenes where there were windows. Lloyd, the bartender, said, by the end of my first day of shooting, I had sweat so completely through the suit that they had to have it dry cleaned immediately after I took it off.
At least he didn't have a leather face on.
Right. Okay, there are worse movies. But I find this movie fascinating. I find that stuff fascinating. I think that stuff makes this movie better.
Yeah.
Or at least more interesting. And the fact that Shelley Duvall came around and they settled their shit makes me feel like it's okay to like it, but having that context makes her performance more interesting.
Yeah, because there's all the different contexts they have now and everything.
Context makes movies more interesting. Like I hate when people are like, I don't care what happened behind the scenes. I'm like, I understand like art from artists, like I still want to like this thing, but having context really makes it more interesting.
Yeah, like Tarantino movies. I love it because I know who Tarantino is and like how he is as a person.
Or even just the context of the time.
Yeah.
Like saying like we're going to have these hyper film literate characters. Nobody had done that in 1992.
Yeah.
It was literally just Tarantino and Kevin Smith. Like, and one of them is better than the other. I'll admit it. But like literally, like no one had done that before. Like nobody had done like, let's just have someone give a monologue about how much they like a virgin. That wasn't a thing.
Yeah.
That makes that movie more interesting because now all characters talk like that. Everybody wants to be Joss Whedon or Quentin Tarantino.
Yeah, and like how we're talking about Blair Witch, like I'm sure once I see more like Paranormal Activity and stuff, I might appreciate Blair Witch more just because it's like the first one to do it.
Yeah, context makes things better.
Yeah. Yeah, and Friday the 13th, how I was like, this is super like 80s and it's hysterical, but given the context that it's in the 80s and knowing behind the scenes stuff, they're all theater kids, like it brings a different,
it makes their performances like, that explains it. I can get on board with this now.
Yeah.
Like one of my friends I remember once being like, I can't really watch Superman, the effects are so bad. And I was like, not for 77, they were fantastic. You got to put yourself in that time to some degree. Like
the first Tron movie.
Yeah.
But
like
I will never excuse the smoke in 28 Days Later.
That is fair. Even with context, it looks bad. All right.
Yeah.
But that's the movie. People have come around on it, luckily. I talked earlier about it getting really bad reviews. Lots of people saying like, especially because the book was such a big hit. So many people were so familiar with it. Even though now I would argue people are probably more familiar with this movie.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Which is nuts to think about, which is, I think, part of the other reason that Stephen King resents it. Stephen King hated this movie so much that actually in the 90s, he did a TV miniseries where he adapted the book. It is not as good as this, believe it or not. It's like fine. It's got some really interesting stuff in it. It's got a lot of the stuff that is missing from this. There's a warmth and a heart to that book that I think is in all of Stephen King's work that I think this movie misses because Stanley Kubrick does not believe in like beating hearts in love.
Yeah.
He believes in icy exteriors and the cold pain of being human. So much like the push and pull between Poltergeist between Tobe Hooper and Steven Spielberg, I find that push and pull in this movie fascinating.
I also like how we're like 2.5 hours of Shining. It's such a long movie, yet we're like, Irishman is 3 hours? Hell yeah.
I'm going to rewatch The Lord of the Rings at some point this year. So
yeah,
those movies got fat too, so it's okay. It's okay to like a movie. If you think this movie is perfect and I'm wrong, that's fine. You don't need to tell me. I'm sure you have your reasons.
And I like this movie because it's pretty.
It really is.
Pretty movie. And I like the whole 1920s ghost stuff.
Yes.
So right now that we're wrapping up Ghost Month, I appreciate that I liked 3 out of 4 of them a lot. Like,
and they're all so different.
Yeah, they're very different because I think that's what I like about watching these movies is I'm going in with a mindset and like a assumption of what it's going to be like, and then it's completely different.
Yeah.
Like I don't like ghost movies, and I like 3 out of 4 of them.
Oh, don't worry, we'll get to some trash soon. I love some bullshit. Don't worry.
Yeah, I like all these ghost movies for different reasons too. Yeah. Like I can't really rate them because I like them for different reasons.
That's fair. I was actually about to ask you if you want to rank them. Try something new.
I mean, every single time I think about ranking movies, I'm like, no, I just want to like take in everything. I don't really want to like.
I like picking ones that I'm like, this is a favorite, but I don't like putting them like whenever people ask me like, what are your 3 favorites? I'm like, in no particular order, blah blah.
Yeah, let's do that. So out of all the movies we've watched from the beginning of the podcast to now,
it's the end of 2019. Let's do it.
What were your what's your favorites out of
just from the podcast? Yeah. In no particular order, all of them. No, probably The Thing, Halloween, Scream. Well, we know Scream is my favorite, but The Shining is on there. Like, how many am I picking? Actually,
as many as you want.
Oh,
it's not
all of them. And some of them I actually found I liked more than I remembered liking. Like I remember really liking 28 Days Later when I saw it, and watching it this time, I was like, I love this fucking movie.
Yeah. Whereas
like Blair Witch, I was like, still about the same. Pretty solid. B-, C+, cool. Like,
so like your favorite, like not the ones that you just like enjoy, but like your favorites that you're like, oh yeah, I freaking love that movie.
I mean, Scream is number 1.
Scream,
and then below
Halloween,
that,
Thing.
In no particular order, Scream, Halloween, Thing, Conjuring. I know it's not your cup of tea, but I really love it. And probably Shining.
For me, it was The Thing. Because, I mean, that's the one that set it all up. That was my first journey into all of this.
I know. I'm so glad we got to start y'all so strong.
I know.
It's all downhill from here, buddy.
I mean, so now I drink Jim Beam bourbon. That's like my go-to drink. Be like Kurt Russell as much as I can. Every good boy. Don't care if he's a thing or not. Your Thing was really good. Then Halloween, just John Carpenter's the best.
Yeah, I cannot wait to put on more Carpenter movies for you.
I'm so excited. Halloween is just like the synth, and I love Jamie Lee Curtis in it, and Michael Myers is like the perfect, like, you don't know too much about him. He's like just enough.
You
to
don't
be
know
spooky.
his motivation, but you know who he is.
Yeah. And then so that was the 2 for foundational that were my favorites. And slashers, because I'm trying to separate it from like characters to movie, because I really like Leatherface, but I wouldn't call Texas Chainsaw one of my favorites.
That's fair. Yeah.
So I liked Leatherface, but Scream was my favorite out of like the slasher month. I really, really like Scream, especially with all the context of watching the slashers.
That's why I said, look, we gotta wait.
Yeah. I think that was just the most fun out of all of them, that I had the most fun watching.
Yeah. It's just a good time of a movie.
Yeah, but I did love all the other slashers. Friday the 13th.
Bottom.
I liked this. I liked the twist.
Yeah.
The twist made it. I was like, okay, that's cool. And then this month, like it was 3 out of 4. Like I loved Candyman just because it got me with the Phantom of the Opera shit, and Poltergeist was fun. It was a fun family movie. I felt like. And then this, just beautiful aesthetic shots that I love.
The Conjuring is a movie.
The Conjuring had Patrick Wilson at a 10.
Oh, I forgot my big joke for this one. It's our second movie in a row with impossible white guy hairlines. A dark glimpse into our future, Zach.
2 movies, 2 5 heads. Together they make 10 head.
Together they're a perfect 10. Patrick Wilson and Jack Nicholson are
10 head. Coming 2020.
On that note, Zach, it's been a fantastic 2019.
Yes, it has.
Thank you, everybody, for listening. Where can everybody find you, Zach?
At Zac Shirk, Instagram, ZachShirk.com. Where can they find you?
You can find me just about everywhere as I Draw Paintings, or on my Facebook page, Matt Merys.
Yeah, and you can find Matt Makes Zach Watch Horror Movies on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Stitcher. Give us a rating. Give us a
Please.
like. And we got Supermoon Studio on Instagram. Hey Supermoon on Twitter. Matt runs that. Say hi.
Yeah.
Shout all your...
Tell me why I'm wrong about The Shining.
Yeah. Yell at them all you want, because I'm not on Twitter, so I don't have to worry about it. But send me DMs on Instagram, comments. We post all of our art that we do on there for all the episodes. Supermoon on YouTube, where we have speed art and everything.
Yeah.
It takes me a long time to render those. Please enjoy them.
Please.
And coming up in 2020, we might be checking out some horror cons.
Yes.
We might be making some new podcasts.
Hell yeah.
So you got a lot to look forward to. And for next month, we kicked this whole thing off with John Carpenter. We're going to kick off 2020 with They Live for sci-fi horror.
Yes, I'm so excited.
I'm so excited. I'm so excited to go back John Carpenter. Yes. I miss him so much. That's one more John Carpenter.
It's fair. You are making a right choice in that opinion.
Yes. I love John Carpenter.
Yes. All right. So thank you guys for listening.
Thank you for listening.
Keep it spooky.
Keep it spooky. Merry Christmas. Happy New Year. So see you in 2020. And remember, I love you, little sons of bitches. Bye.
Bye.